Requirements management. Requirements management. Requirements for computer-based system change and the desire to change requirements persists throughout the life of the system. So the requirements of a computer-based system, they go on changing and the desire to change the requirements persists throughout the life of the system. Requirements management is a set of activities that help the project team identify, control, and track the requirements. So, requirement management is what? It is a set of activities that helps the project team to identify, to control, and to track the requirements and the changes to the requirements at any time as the project proceeds. Each requirement is assigned a unique identifier. The requirements are then placed into one or more traceability tables. These tables may be stored in the databases that relate features, sources, dependencies, subsystems, and interfaces to the requirements. A requirements traceability table is also placed at the end of the software requirement specification. So it is placed at the end of the SRS. So main types of software requirements can be of three types: functional requirements, non-functional, and domain requirements. So as the types of software requirements, there are three types of software requirements: functional requirements, non-functional requirements, and the domain requirements. So what are the three types? Functional, non-functional, and domain requirements. So functional requirements. So the first type is your functional requirements. These are the requirements that the end user specifically demand as the basic facilities that the system should offer. So end user will demand these requirements as a basic facility which the system should offer. That means the system should have these basic things. It can be a calculation, data manipulation, business process, user interaction, or any other specific functionality which defines what function a system is likely to perform. So it defines what function a system is likely to perform. If it is a calculator, it will perform calculation. So basic demand is it should perform calculation. So that calculation which it is performing will define that the system which is made is a calculator. All these functionalities need to be necessarily incorporated into the system as a part of the contract. So all the functional requirements have to be put inside or incorporate in the system as the part of the contract. These are represented or stated in the form of input to be given to the system, the operation performed, and the output expected. They are basically the requirements stated by the user which one can see directly in the final product, unlike the non-functional requirements. For example, in a hospital management system, a doctor should be able to retrieve the information of the patient. So this is the basic need that a doctor should be able to retrieve the information of the patient. So this basic need which is there in the system management, hospital management system, is called as the functional requirement. Each high-level functional requirement may involve several interactions or dialogues between the system and the outside world. In order to accurately describe the functional requirements, all scenarios must be enumerated. There are many ways of expressing functional requirements. Example, natural language, a structured or formatted language with no rigorous syntax, and formal specification language with proper syntax. Functional requirements in software engineering are also called as functional specifications. So the next is your non-functional requirements. These are basically the quality constraints that the system must satisfy according to the project contract. So what are they? They are the quality constraints which it should satisfy according to the contract of the project. Non-functional requirements not related to the system functionality rather define how the system should perform. The priority or extent to which these factors are implemented varies from one project to another. They are also called non-behavioral requirements. They basically deal with issues like portability, security, maintainability, reliability, scalability, performance, reusability, flexibility. So they are dealing with all these issues. Next is your domain requirements. Domain requirements are the requirements which are characteristic of a particular category or a domain of projects. Domain requirements can be functional or non-functional. Domain requirements engineering is a continuous process of proactively defining the requirements for all forcible applications to be developed in the software product line. The basic functions that a system of a specific domain must necessarily exhibit come under this category. For instance, in an academic software that maintains records of a school or college, the functionality of being able to access the list of faculty and the list of students of each grade is a domain requirement. These requirements are therefore identified from that domain model and are not user specific. So other common classification of software requirements can be user requirements. These requirements describe what the end user wants from the software system. So what are user requirements? It describes what the end user is needing from the software system. User requirements are usually expressed in natural language and are typically gathered through interviews, surveys or user feedback. So you have a feedback form which is there. So in that feedback form, the user will list all the requirements which that user wants for the particular software. System requirements. The requirements specify the technical characteristics of the software system such as its architecture, hardware requirements, software components and interfaces. System requirements are typically expressed in technical terms and are often used as a basis for system design. So system requirements are typically expressed in the technical terms and they are the basis for system design. Business requirements. These requirements describe the business goals and objectives that the software system is expected to achieve. Business requirements are usually expressed in terms of revenue, market share, customer satisfaction or other business metrics. Regulatory requirements. These requirements specify the legal or the regulatory standards that the software must meet. Regulatory requirements may include data privacy, security, accessibility or other legal compliance requirements. Interface requirements. These requirements specify the interactions between the software system and the external system or components such as databases, web services or other software applications. Design requirements. These requirements describe the technical design of the software system. So they include the software architecture, data structures, then they include the algorithms and other technical related aspects of the system. Software requirements characteristics. Gathering software requirements is the foundation of the entire software development project. Hence, they must be clear, correct and well defined. A complete software requirement specifications, that is the SRS, must be clear, correct, consistent, coherent, comprehensible, that is understandable, modified, verifiable, prioritized, unambiguous and traceable. So this is the analysis model and the design model.